Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Nelmer. I'm a UI designer at TouchLab, and today we should talk about material components and Flutter. So, material design. We all loved material design when it was launched about 4 years ago. We loved it so much that we used their elements for everything. Like literally, we use cards for make lists. We use floating action buttons for every single action on that screen. And this was basically my feelings about any app that I opened around 3 years ago. Pretty tough. So let's clear out this. Using floating action buttons for everything, it's not cool. Stop doing that. Let's play a little bit of this game. Who can spot differences between these two apps? Blue top bar, navigation drawers. Who wants to keep coming? No? Hamburger menus, floating action buttons. So to your left, there's a Google app. And to the right, there's another Google app. The thing is, the one to the left is just a custom app called Shrine that is supposed to be an e-commerce rather than just a copy of Google Docs. So what's the problem with material design from 2014 to that thing? We all use those drop-in components. We drag and drop from Android Studio and started customizing it in a way. The problem was that the app all started looking like if they were just another Google Apps, another Gmail, another Google Keep, or any other Google XXX app that you can imagine. And in a way, I get it. It was easy and the safest bet as you were to get just getting out of Android Studio. But the other one problem is it's not your brand. When you have a product or a mobile product, what you want to do is to stand out from the other apps, right? But how you do that if you just keep doing grids, throwing action buttons, and cards? Any idea? So you see all those apps that I've been putting there on purpose? Those were the apps that won the design award from Google on 2015. How they managed to win the award with just 1 year of releasing material design, if they just used material design as any other of us did? Well, they focus on the core principles of material design, which was more on typography, space, motion, brand, imagery. So how Tumblr, New York Times, Pocket, B&H Photos, Weather Timeline managed to do that? I think we should revisit the material principles. Remember, the material design is not just about bold colors or a cool transition or a floating action button going underneath and transforming into another screen. Remember, material design was based on paper. Paper can cast shadow, paper can transform. As your brand-wise, you want to convey the feeling of your brand with typography, with the space of your own brand, not just Roboto and other styles that you might want. And the images, and so is the surface or how they transition. Also, you want to convey your brand through motion, as long as it's a meaningful motion and makes sense to that app. Remember, the material design is a design system that works across platforms. So let me show you a couple examples of well-designed material apps, but not being Google branded apps. And let's think about those principles. remember to embrace brand. This one is using material design, but in a way where it's more like a pesto palette, if we so to speak. It's also using a simple navigation and also using just one single accent color. As this one is using bold colors to convey the fun of the app in another I should see it this way. Another accent color that works across of this bluish pinkish palette. On this sample, we can all see that is pretty much monochromatic, basically black and white. But at the end, we see a floating action button that is not your typical to the right bottom of the app, but it's a floating action button that goes on a contextual mode, meaning if I'm seeing a list of emails and the main action on that page is compose an email, it's just going to be the little pencil pad. But on the other side, you can see if I open it an email, and the main action is to forward or reply to the email, the button transforms to be that reply action. If your app is an app that is where the content is king, we can see that the content goes over the Chrome, meaning putting the content on top of everything with a playground on typography. The headlines are the main call to action there, when the title, what is a link, what the image is conveying on that article. This one is more a case study on, we all have seen when you are on an error state and the user makes a mistake, you see that little red indicator of password must be 8 characters or something like that. But what happens when your accent color is the red already? How do you change that game without losing contrast on a white surface? And also, how do you convey the motion of any simple interaction without getting out of the feeling of your brand? And the last one, who says that data needs to be buried? For example, this dark UI theme gives like a premium feeling of the app, where the accent colors, as you can see, the green calls to actions, but also it doesn't get in the middle of the small white numbers. So we saw those apps, and they are all using material design, but not your typical 2014 material design, but a material design that is using their own brand. So what I want to do next is show you how you, as an independent developer or maybe you're a designer, how you can do that with a simple tool. So let's fire up Sketch. So what I want to show you, it's a tool developed by the material team at Google that we can all use to make material guidelines and specs without even knowing about design. So it's a plugin called Material Editor. Can you all see from there? All right. Gonna put it here. So what this makes you do, it's you can use the basics of material design, meaning color, meaning typography, meaning iconography, to create a very simple UI kit that you can use your own to get typography specs, to get a color palette that works with accessibility, that works with your own brand, a set of icons, and most importantly, that how you can customize that floating action button at your own taste. So let's say, for example, that we are going to be working on this app. It's like a purplish, pinkish palette. So what we can do here to change any color at any moment, we can all go and select from any of this material. Let's try how does it look with this one. As you can see, as I go and select any of these colors, these components get changed with the color that I selected. The app bar gets changed, call to actions gets changed, the focus states of those text fields get changed too, based on my primary color that I use. Let's try another one. More like a bluish, teal. I find it pretty useful. And for example, depending on if my palette color is too dark or too bright, it changes. So as you can see, the menu turns white or turns black to allow that high contrast on your navigation. So that's about color as my main color. As we can do the same for the for my accent color. Let's try a not so red color. So let's see how that accent color looks. It looks good to me, it looks readable, I can read this from very behind, and the beauty of this is that all these components that I just tweak get transformed into all the possible combination that I can do for the app that I'm going to design. Button bars, top bars, backgrounds, banners. Even for the button navigation, it offers you a light or a more colorish palette for you to decide. And all these colors get applied to any single UI element that you can imagine. And you can also create a custom one, put it in your library, and then pull out it from there. Your text fields, the new text fields, tooltips. Trying to look for any other changes over here. So this whole file that I just created turns into a library. And a library in Sketch, I'm gonna go back. It's a file that you can put, let's say, on a share folder on your company, or if you are just you can just start from there. And Sketch makes it like a master library. So anytime that you're going to insert any new element, let's say on a blank canvas, you'll see that library that you just created. You see the theme editor, and you can start from here. You can insert a top bar. Let's say that I want to use that version. Let me close this. And you can just start creating your UI from there. Let's put a lovely car there. Like this is like a social media type of app, and you can just start putting more and more elements as you need. So let's go with the slides. So cool. You created just a design system that works for you with your brand values, with your typography, icons. The result looks more or less like this. So you have that. What's the next step? The most logical step is, of course, build it. But you need to hand off to developers. Or if you are your own developers, you need to see specs. I discovered this very cool tool called Gallery.io that was also released with the new version of Material Components. You'll see it in action. It's very, very cool. Here's what it does. You can put all your different projects over there, and let's select the one that we were just working on. If the internet gods allowed us, okay. And you select the artboard or the page on your app that you want to work with. Let's say that we are going to work on the finding a fly for one adult to South Korea. You see those elements at the top? What those elements let you do is, for example, if you're working on a team, you can comment on those. But the juicy part, it's when you get into inspect mode, which is you as the developer what you want. So what do we see here? We see tabs, we see text fields, we see a list of results, let's say. So let's click on this tab. You see the specs, red lines, spaces in between, margins, paddings. But what I like the most on this Gallery.io tool is that they work on what it was a pain point in the past. So Material Design launched with this cool animations and a lot of components that had different properties, and the designer will just, I finished, so let's see how you do this. When you select an element here, let's call this tabs. As you can see to the right, is that it will let you know, it does know what you're selecting. For example, tabs, text fields, list items, and all that, it's for free. So when you select that item, you click here for references, and with the internet gods on our side, you see all the different attributes for that. How does it work? And you can put measurements. What's the size of those colors? And it's all live. Components, the elevation of the car, all the red line basically created for free. All the others, and you can do this for Android, iOS, Flutter, web. So I'm just gonna keep putting all the other components over there, so you can have the references of all the specs that each of those can give you. And you can put, for example, the dimensions that it needs to have, the padding, where does it go, the color selected. It's very interactive. I find it a little bit useful because when you get red lines, like start interpreting and having to go through the documentation and see what's the behavior of those, it was a pain point. So I'm glad they come up with that. That was your. Let's go to, for example, we had a floating action button here too. You can trigger Flutter web and start seeing Flutter components. And you get all the specs on how to implement it on Flutter. So I got the specs, I got the red line, so what's next? I guess this is my personal thing, but what I look for a SDK or new platform to bring me is one of the three things. So the end goal of one design that I do or any product that I'm working on is to ship it as soon as possible to market so I can get feedback faster. So it's like this thing of, fail often and, learn faster. So this is a typically I design, I build, I test, and keep going through that cycle of iterations to make it look good and meet the user's needs. So how does Flutter help me with that? Flutter has three things that I like. The typical fast development because of that lightning fast hot reload, where I can just be the time that they'll be writing down specs is the same time that I can use to knock down a design on a prototype for both iOS and Android with just one single code, which is very useful for me. It's expressive, and the UI it's fully customizable. For example, as you can see on those GIFs over there, it's not your iOS or Android dedicated design. It can be a design that works on both platforms, and it was just made out of Flutter. So as you can see, you don't see like a very, very specific material design component from the early days. Custom animations, as you can see, for example, the app in the middle, the stats, all is custom. And even yet better, Flutter respects all the iOS or Android, let's say, native components. For example, to the iOS one, you see the back arrow on Android looks different. The beautiful little teapot adapts to the constraints. The font is different on the title of Shrine. So what is it that I love the most about Flutter? And it's what we have been saying all day about Flutter. In Flutter, everything is a widget. But, what is a widget? If you have been updating your apps, any Google apps, you start to notice that they just switch to a wider version of all their apps. And that's because they want to let you know that to be a good app, you don't need to follow their own standards of Gmail or any other Google Keep, Google Fit, Calls, Contact, any of those apps that use a floating action button and a very bold color. So a widget can be any of these elements. It could be a button, it could be a toggle, it could be a dialog with the respective actions, it could be the floating action button, but it can also be any element. For example, as how you lay out the text, you can refer to the text as a layout, or paddings also as another element of layout, and those are all widgets. So translating that to Android, a widget is just a view. And a widget can be a view holder, or it can be, its own view. Another thing is we all have been using, at least I assume that you have been using constraint layout to get your layout hierarchy flat. One beauty about the Flutter widgets is they are their own. So you can set the concept of constraint layout to be flat applies to any of these widgets. And everything is a widget. but there's also a widget for everything. So let me just give you a quick tour of the widget library. So they have for basic widgets to the material components, and also you don't need to be specifically be working with material design to make an iOS app. They have their own iOS widgets library that you can use too. The typical indicator, dialogues, how they show the sliders, their own switches. And you just hit the documentation, and you'll see all the different properties and attributes of those Cupertino, as they refer to it, as well as material design ones. Buttons, floating actions, icons, any of those. So we have the widgets, we explore material design, we explored a little bit of Flutter. So let's jump into something very, very dangerous. And it's seeing how all this apply. So for example, there was a collab with an app called Startup Nelmer, which just shows a bunch of random numbers for your next company, and you can save those your favorite ones. So I should run this. I'm gonna run it on this iPhone 8 in this Nexus 5. So we can make, yeah. Pardon? Uh-huh. This one? The Android one? Uh-huh. Record settings? Oh, okay. That's great. Well, thank you. That's one good thing that we surround from smart people. I haven't realized of that actually. So we have it on the iPhone 8, and let's run it on this Nexus 5 that I love. Just that we can make quick changes, fix a typo that I think I got here, and had the half reload helps me to do quick prototypes once I get a design for. So we have it there. Let's start with the color, and let's do this too. So on the properties of color, you can choose colors from any of the material designs that you have. For example, if I type blue, it will show me all the options for blue. If I type green, all the options for green. So teal, I'm gonna go with teal. Make the changes. Let's see what else can we change here. I guess we can change the heart icon to be a bookmark, because it doesn't necessarily need to mean that I'll be using this as love. So on Flutter you see all these different icons they offer, and to the this corner around here you see the changes being made. Oh, let me make the changes to iOS. So I'm basically changing quick quick options from the design specs that I have in my mind, meaning let's say that my palette is teal with an accent color of orange. The icons are not cute, but more straight. So I'll be just doing quick, changing properties, changing values, and see the changes over there. Let me see. I did the changes on Android. I need to switch. I'm gonna change the color to the accent color too. Let's say orange, deep orange. All right. So when I tap one of the list items that I want, or recycler view items in this case, it gets saved to my collection, and I see they are there. But also, one thing that I want you guys to note, it's when I go to a different activity, for the sake of being Android developers, you notice that Flutter is respecting the typical back button on iOS and the up button on Android. So it didn't took, for example, it didn't swap the style of the back and the up button just because I'm just doing one single code. Okay, so I have on the title save suggestions, which can be fixed with this, saved. Let's deploy those changes. And see how did it go. Save suggestions. Say, oh, what happened? Okay. If there's a way to trigger the two emulators, that will be the best. So, how to get started with Flutter? Okay, displaying. Save changes. Save suggestions. So those are, the quick and dirty changes that you can make while seeing all your different specs and coding with Flutter. You can put them side by side on your screen and start, knocking out that design specs that you got. So getting started with Flutter. The first place that you guys need to go, it's flutter.io. It is so simple to follow through, from the setting up to trying a new project, creating your first widget, modifying widgets. I also suggest that you go to the code labs from Google, specifically the Google I/O code labs. Not only because Google, but for example, if I select Flutter here, I don't only get to see code for Flutter, the language, but also how can I apply material design using Flutter and create something as cool as the Shrine app. And my last suggestions is to go to material.io, since we were talking a lot about material components, and start from this one note, text, this one. So this is my to-go place, my go-to place whenever I see a new update on material design, because in a way, just seeing material design and beautiful graphics, it doesn't mean anything unless you know how to actually implement it. Yeah, those are my three. Also, if you go into udacity.com they have a project-based crash course on Flutter. They have this cool measurement app that you create with Flutter using material components, just one single code base for iOS and Android. It takes less than 2 days to master it, that project, of course. So yeah, that's how you get started. Thank you for stopping by. If you guys have any questions, please come to the mic. We have about 5 minutes and 17 seconds to answer any questions you guys have about components. Yes? No? All right. Thank you.